Hey, Jim Toscano here, and welcome to the Monday night live stream, Filling in the Grooves, episode 97. I think I wrote 98 in the description before, which it's 97. Last week was Bernard Purdy, if you missed that, the most recorded drummer in history. That was super fun. Of course, it's archived over on YouTube, so check that one out. Big announcement coming up. We have the 100th episode, just 3 episodes away, with Stanton Moore, Dave Weckl, and Dave Garibaldi all on the same night. That should be, those hacks. That should be pretty amazing. And by the way, I just got David Garibaldi's new book, DG's Notebook. So a big shout out to DG for this. What a great accomplishment. David Garibaldi's Notebook. He took all of his notes and he turned it into this amazing book. This is out with Hudson Music, which distributes my digital book. And I also just want to mention Scott Kettner's Pandero Method, the Essential Pandero Method. Pick that one up. And Let the Drum Speak by Bernard Purdy. So I just wanted to mention all these books that I've been checking out lately. This is the official autobiography of Bernard Purdy, and he's working on a second one. So shout out to Bernard and Celia for that. Yeah, man. And I just want to thank my companies, Vader Drumsticks, Prologix Pedals, Offset, Prologix Percussion, Offset Pedals, Sabian Cymbals, and of course, Blackmagic Designs, which we have a very special evening planned. I thought I was going to mention one other thing. Oh, and I want to give a big shout out and hug to Dom Famularo, of course, and family. So we are thinking of you. And the whole drum community as a whole is thinking about you. So, that said, I'm gonna move things along. So my guest tonight is a very funny guy, by the way. We've done a little bit of hanging out, and I want to get his official bio up because I have a few notes that I want to get to. But Tonight's guest is Bob Caniglia, and he is with Blackmagic Design, who I mentioned before. That makes the amazing switcher that I use. They make some amazing cameras. They make prosumer stuff. They make pro stuff. They're the guys that are making television studio equipment and really changed the whole scope of what I do and what the drumming community that I have helped along the way, what they do. He is the director of sales operations for North America. And he's been working in film and television for a very long time, since I graduated high school, actually, apparently. And, he had started out as a part-time camera operator and editor on, like, industrial videos, and then eventually became a producer and director at a local CBS affiliate, and eventually found himself at the Disney Channel for a while, and now he is with Blackmagic Design. And he's also a stand-up comedian, which is, like, amazing. So we may go down a little comedy rabbit hole shortly. But my guest tonight, Bob Caniglia. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth. How was that intro? Is that intro okay?
Well, that's a lot, I have to say. And, it's funny, too, because the PR department writes the bio, and I'm always like, wow, that's a lot more interesting than I remember, but okay. But, yeah, it's funny because you said you graduated high school that year, and that's probably, there was one of the PR team said something about, 85, that's the year I was born. And I was like, that's delightful.
Wow. Yeah. Isn't it great when you hear that?
Well, I don't know what happened. I was the youngest guy at DaVinci, which was bought by Blackmagic 13 years ago. I became the oldest guy at Blackmagic overnight. I was like, how did that happen? I was the young guy. Now I'm the old guy, or whatever. So, but it is, this company is so much fun. And, and the toys that we're using to communicate right now are part of it. And I even said to somebody the other day, I said, if I didn't work at Blackmagic, I'd still have all this stuff because this stuff is cool.
Right. Yeah. It's really funny. It's like I found my way to the Blackmagic stuff. Actually, what's funny, I showed you this before. I have the original Hyperdeck shuttle, which was my recording deck, which this has been around for a while, right? So
oh yeah.
And this
Yeah.
this now has been sort of replaced inside of the switcher, which is really amazing. Like, because I
Part
was
of that.
using, yeah, and now this, right? So tell us what that thing is.
So this is the new Hyperdeck Shuttle HD, and basically, it has an SD card slot, so you can record to that or to like an SSD drive. You can plug it in there, but it's got the cool jog shuttle knob, and so you can play back clips, and it kind of goes right next to your ATEM Mini, and you can use this to play clips. But it also has some kind of crazy feature. You can use this as a teleprompter.
Oh, right. You're saying that.
Yeah, it accesses files, teleprompter file, and then you can use the jog shuttle to speed up and slow down your teleprompter.
I
it
need
comes
that
out the HDMI.
because I actually, it's really funny because I was going to discuss with you probably off camera on a different day that I want to see if I can recreate my entire show without the use of any additional software and just using the switcher. And to play the video clips, that is my solution right there. So I bring in the video clips as another camera angle, and I'll be able to play my intro video, my titles, all that stuff. My countdown timer can all be on that shuttle device. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, and it has an output too, so you can see the what you're playing next. You know what I mean? Like a little overlay, so you could tell what you're playing next.
Oh, cool. So like you have a cue. Oh, that's so great, man.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No,
we need a round of applause for that. Let's see.
Another cool toy that just came out.
What's that?
And we, I don't know if you heard, but we also announced new HD switchers that are SDI based, right? So the ones that you have, I have, right? That's HDMI. We have these new SDI that start with 10 inputs and go up to 40 inputs. And
now, are those rack mountable? Because it looked like they were rack items.
Yeah. So the 1ME is 2/3 of a rack, so it would fit on a shelf with something else, like a web presenter or something. The 2ME is one rack unit, but has 20 inputs. And then the 4ME will be two rack units and has 40 inputs. So it's quite the switcher. But the prices are pretty good. The $995 for the 1ME and $1695 for the 2ME and $3695 for the 4ME.
Wow, man. And so, and as far as camera connections, is it
so it's all SDI based,
all
right?
SDI based, right.
Probably not in the same era, but like I have a combination of both. And of course we make converters that do both. But it also converts whatever you're using to whatever you're using. Right. Meaning they all have scalers on the input, so it won't matter what you're plug into it. So it's very cool.
So if you had HDMI output cameras, you could run them into converters, HDMI to SDI, bring it into the MME, and then and then it would scale it there. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
I love that.
It's like it's a step up from some of the other ones. It depends on, we have customers that some love the HDMI, some are SDI based. This kind of it's just a way to bring people up and down the product line, but the software is all the same. So when you fire that up, it's all going to look the same as what you use now, which is always the best part of it.
Yeah, man. Oh my God. By the way, so these are let me see if my angles are up. Overhead of the drum kit. You can see those lovely offset pedals down there. And offset over there too. That's the foot cam. Side cam. We got some mood lighting on, so it's a little dim back there. But yeah. And and I forgot to mention all Sabian, beautiful Sabian symbols there, by the way.
Well done.
But so, on the extreme switcher, the one that I'm using, you got the Ferris wheel shot. I forgot about that.
That's the live shot in Atlantic City of the Ferris wheel. The ocean, which is very rough today.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Any surfers?
This is the top of the Hard Rock that usually helicopters land on there when they're bringing in acts.
Oh man,
which is kind of fun sometimes. And
occasionally,
and then I have my quad shot. So I have the
Super Source.
Exactly. Superstars gives me all those. And in a couple minutes, when it gets a little darker, we'll start seeing all the lights flashing on the Ferris wheel. So when that comes back, I'll point that out when it comes back later.
There's my Superstore shot, which is actually off center right now because I have this centered for my face. But anyway, that's really fun to use.
Sure.
For various picture-in-picture stuff, doing clinics and teaching and all that good stuff. So,
Stream Deck is your friend.
Yes, I have my Stream Deck. Actually, at the moment on my Stream Deck, I have things like this up, which is ridiculous, but
it's nice. High five. Very nice.
I of course have my my Borat, but I also have Dom Famularo for you, Dom Famularo, friends and family of Dom. Here's my Dom sound clip. Ready?
I don't know. I play the drums. I like Italian food. I like to fish.
And as I like to call it, that's Drunk Dom, because I actually slowed it down a little bit. Usually he would be speaking much faster, so I kind of slowed it down. Yeah. But I have, with the Stream Deck, I also use it for switching scenes on the show. So I use it, going back between guests, which is right now, everybody can see Bob, and then back to the 2-shot. So I use the Stream Deck for that. I use it for sound effects. I use it for transitions and stuff. So it's it's definitely your friend, and it integrates really well with everything. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because my camera, let's see, is actually this. I use a terrible green screen on purpose.
Yes.
So that I can, show off the keyer in our switcher. And when I was in Vegas for NAB, the big show, a couple of weeks ago, and I brought my terrible green screen and a light and my camera because there were some press interviews that I did with people that weren't in attendance. So I'd go back to my room, fire that all up, and I looked like I was in here.
in your fake library office.
In my fake, yeah, which is actually a legitimate shot of my family room, but you can kind of see, I put it all out of focus on purpose because that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so I brought my, because then when they said, well, wait, I thought you were in Vegas. I said, well, I am in Vegas, but I also, I have my stock background. So
that's right.
Have green screen will travel.
Do the trick?
Which one?
The head.
That?
No, the other trick.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah. Where is that? Oh, this one.
Oh no, he's gone. Wait, what about the one with the disappearing head?
Yeah. Where is my I have to find that.
It's not handy.
Oh, I see it. Stand by. Oh,
okay.
You can't see me anyway.
That's I can't see you anyway.
That's even better. So I can
disappearing Bob.
It totally disappearing Bob, but uh-oh, where did it go? Now I know why. This is what happens when you come back from Vegas and you have COVID.
Oh no.
So,
there we go.
very good.
Lovely.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
This one works well. Especially if I'm on a call and if it's a group Skype or group Zoom chat and someone says something that like is wrong, I just go, oof.
Nice.
I'm not there. So you could be a pirate.
Oh, very cool. Oh, that's fun.
Arrgh.
See that? The fun of using a keyer or a green screen.
Exactly.
So, by the way, everybody, to our chat, which we'll check in with the chat shortly, but we're giving away a switcher. So Blackmagic Design has partnered in this endeavor to give away an A10 Mini Pro. And so I thank Blackmagic Design and, of course, Bob Caniglia for making that happen. So if you've not entered yet and you happen to be watching this, you can go to my Facebook page. There is a link there. You'll see a picture of a switcher. Click on the link, and there's still time to enter. So the contest ends tomorrow in the afternoon. It'll end, and then the software will pick the winner, and then I'll let Blackmagic Design know who the winner is, and you could potentially win a lovely A10 Mini Pro switcher from Blackmagic Design, which is an amazing thing, especially to get one for free. But I would say that's probably the Pro ISO is probably the step up from that, which is the one I've probably placed the most of in people's hands. And now the Extreme seems to be the one that everybody wants. And the Blackmagic Extreme, what I love about it, a couple things. Of course, it has 8 inputs, which is great. And you can still record with it, but it has 2 HDMI outputs, which I like on it. It also has 2 USB connections on it, so I don't have to unplug my my SD drive to stay connected for Zoom or whatever I'm doing streaming online. So, and it has Super Source, which is an awesome feature as well. So it's just and for the price, it's just ridiculous. Like I won't mention the company, but the switchers that I was using before from a company that will rename nameless didn't have even a fraction of the features that this thing has. So it's really pretty incredible. The Ferris wheel didn't light up yet.
No.
But
I've shown it off Super Source. But
yeah. And by the way, Super Source, the other thing about Super Source that I love, depending on what I'm doing, it's completely configurable, of course. So in my main shot, like if I'm doing a desk setup like this, I put me in the main shot. I can put several windows. I think they're up to 5, right?
Yeah, because you have 4 Super Source plus the DVE, so you could have 5.
Plus the DVE. So, and the other thing is you have a pool for graphics, so you can put graphics in there, not video clips, but stills. And we just came up with a wonderful solution for the video clips, which is I would bring in a separate computer before, but I like the idea of having a dedicated recorder that I can keep my clips on with the Hyperdeck Shuttle. That would be amazing. And then I could pull up my titles and all that kind of stuff, logos. Yeah, very, very cool. And of course, like a watermark or logo or something can be in your media pool, and you can key that in, which is a great thing. I don't have that set up at the moment, or I don't want to go searching for it. But yeah, so all these very cool features. Let's say hello real quick in the chat. So let me see, because I already saw some people filing in pretty early, and
cool.
I'll pull us up in a 2-shot with the chat window. Very, very cool. We'll say hello to a couple people before we get back into it. But Bob Sears, the first one in tonight, and he's saying, "Happy Monday, bring on the Blackmagic." Yes, indeed. We got a love you, Dom. Excellent, thank you, Bob. Anthony Cusina hanging with us, loves my T-shirt. Actually, it's pretty funny. I did the first Just Chatting session the other day, which I'm doing one Thursday this week, guys, where I'll just be on for about an hour, maybe 2, just chatting about different things. And we were talking about Charlie Chaplin, and we went down a Charlie Chaplin rabbit hole for about a good half hour of different movies and stuff. So that was really fun. Dave Clive hanging with us from the Dave Clive's Gretsch Museum. Good friend of mine, of course. Dave Clive, great drummer, Gretsch enthusiast, Gretsch collector, hanging with us, saying hi, Jim and Bob. Lucia's here tonight. My lovely student Lucia, very super talented multi-instrumentalist and drummer, young lady. And she said, "Hey, Jim and Bob, how's everyone doing tonight?" Lucia, if you think of any questions, you always have good questions, fire away. Bob saying hi back to Lucia. Larry Rizzo saying hi. How is everyone doing tonight? Larry, thanks for hanging. John Gill is here. He's got some questions, possibly. Let's see. Hi, Jim and Bob. Bob, I'm using and enjoying my Blackmagic Extreme. Are there any plans for a new ATEM Extreme in the future? Jim, can you put a link for the shuttle Bob mentioned in the beginning of the podcast? I will definitely put a link. Is there a link available now for the new Hyperdeck?
Hyperdeck Shuttle? Yeah.
I can pull it up.
It's on the Blackmagic Design website there on the homepage.
Okay.
And if you go, let's see.
So if you go to blackmagicdesign.com.
Right. Then scroll down and you'll see new HyperDeck Shuttle HD. And you click on that and it brings you right to the page.
Cool. And what I'll do is I'll put the link in the description of the video after, because if I do it now, Facebook flags it if I go putting links in. So we're not going to do that while we're live. But yeah, absolutely. And as far as a new ATEM Extreme, are there any changes coming up for the ATEM Extreme that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of, and you know, we never reveal the future because we never know when it's going to come.
But
we did just have new switchers though. Yeah.
Right. And one other thing I want to mention is that you guys are very good at building in future capability, because sometimes even in the software, you may, I don't know if I've seen this lately, but I remember early on in the ATEM control software, I had seen things that were sort of future things to come, which is pretty interesting. So you guys are always thinking ahead, which I think is amazing.
We've added, from the beginning of the pandemic, we added camera control from our own cameras to the ATEMs, which I didn't know we could do. And, you know, we added delay in the audio inputs. Yeah, like that came out of nowhere. It's sort of, as I say, turning sand into silicon somehow. But yeah, they did do that. But this is, so this is the home page here. And we had the new ATEM switchers that we, those are all SDI based as opposed to the ATEM minis, which are HDMI based. And then, as I said, there's the HyperDeck Shuttle HD link, and
nice. There it is.
Cool shots of all that stuff. So they were very busy redesigning the whole website for us recently because of the announcements at NAB. Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, and I have to say, I mean, the footprint is the same on that shuttle, which I like. That it sits beautifully next to the next to the switcher.
Yep.
Because that's great when you're configuring stuff into a desk, or if you're configuring it just, you know, where it might be in view. It keeps everything looking really uniform and streamlined. I love that. So Peter Retzlaff hanging with us. Hey, Peter. Peter's a great drummer who lives in Brooklyn these days, originally from Ohio. Used to be part of the collective in New York City, where I studied drums with Kim Plainfield and Marvin Smitty Smith. And Peter Retzlaff is a great educator, great drummer, has a great book called Baby Steps to Giant Steps, amazing jazz technique / independence / play along, great book. My sister's hanging. Hey, Trish, my sister Patricia Bressi, checking in, hanging with us. Bob Sears said, what model do I need to handle 4 cameras? Well,
ATEM Mini.
ATEM Mini. ATEM Mini Pro, ATEM Mini Pro ISO. So if you're staying with 4, Bob, which I know you're pretty much staying with the 4 that I've seen, you're good with the ATEM Mini Pro. If you're looking to record simultaneously all of your camera streams, I would go with the ISO if you can fit that into your budget. I mean, the way I see it, it's another $400 for a recorder built in. Of course, you'll need a drive to save those 2, but it will record simultaneously all of your camera feeds plus the switcher feed, so you get a 5th stem, and then, of course, all of your audio feeds, which is really pretty incredible. So when you're bringing it into DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut Pro or whatever you use for editing, you have all the stem videos, all the stem audio, and it is awesome. And Bob, I know you're lying because, he goes, I like it. Don't you have that, Bob? Oh, it's pretty funny. Yeah, man. So any other little gizmos that are new and notable from NAB? Or is that pretty much it? The new switchers and the shuttle?
New switchers in the shuttle, and then we also launched right before NAB were some cloud, some storage products, and for DaVinci Resolve. So there are a few different ones for that. There, we have a a big one that will be 20 terabytes, 80 terabytes, or 320 terabytes.
Wow.
And we have a small half rack unit, one that's 8 terabytes. And then we have a pod that basically you plug in your own SSDs, but it turns it into and you have a 10 gig Ethernet port. And that's for network attached type storage. And it's a whole DaVinci Resolve workflow for sharing projects in the Blackmagic cloud and doing projects with other people remotely. It was really cool because while I was there, I met a guy who had already done a project remotely with an editor who lives in Ukraine.
What?
Like,
oh my God.
Yeah. I was like, wait, that is the most crazy thing I ever heard. But yeah, they both downloaded the beta software that was available. He uploaded his project into our cloud service that we have now. That person pulled that down. Then he sent them the files through a Dropbox link that we have going on, and everybody got going, and they were able to get that project knocked out in a week. And I couldn't have planned it any better to have that guy come on the booth and say, hey, guess what we did?
Wow.
So that was pretty wild.
That's amazing.
That was really wild.
Man, like for somebody that's used Logic, Final Cut Pro for a really long time, what would you say to them as far as, let's say they newly got a switcher? What would you say to them about, moving on to the DaVinci platform? And what would be, first of all, what would be the main advantage to doing that? And then what is different in that workflow, or what do you find to be the most useful in that workflow that would really entice somebody to move to that platform?
Sure. Yeah. It's funny. I was an editor a long time ago. I learned in the linear days. That's how old I was. And, you don't make a change unless there's a reason to change. Right. And I think though, that we're starting to make some compelling reasons why you would. If you have an ATEM Mini Pro ISO or Extreme ISO, as we talked earlier, when you do the recording, it'll also make a DaVinci Resolve project, right? So that makes it so easy to just drop that into Resolve, and boom, there's your whole timeline of the event that you just recorded. And you have all the recordings of the ISOs. So you can go in and tweak that edit really easily. And if you had Blackmagic cameras and you recorded in camera, then you could relink the raw footage in there. And then Blackmagic Raw, which is our codec that we use to record our high-end cameras, so for 4K, 6K, 12K, those files are real nimble, and they're also part of the advantage of the Blackmagic workflow. And then in Resolve, obviously, it works very easily. But we've been very good about building tools. So you can teach yourself Resolve by going to our website and downloading the material. There's, there's a whole lesson plan on how to teach yourself how to use Resolve. And we have videos that go along with it. And we've been very good about that. We also offer trainings that are online and things like that. And also you can set up your keyboard to map whatever software you're coming from, whether it's Final Cut or Adobe or Avid, whatever it is. So I think that's pretty easy. But also, I don't use it all the time. So every once in a while, I'm like, I forget how to do that. Yeah. I just let my fingers do the typing, and I type in, how do I do this in Resolve? And bing, there's a video.
Yeah.
When I learned in this business, you couldn't get the guy that you worked with to teach you anything. Right. You had to break an arm just to see if you could get an answer out of somebody. Today, everything is told to you.
Yeah. Like here's the manual, Yeah.
Or the manual, or somebody will make a video.
Right.
The videos that you find, it's like, oh, I forget how you do that. It's like, how do I do that? And there's a guy, oh, do you want to just do that? Here's how I do that. Yeah,
that's so true, man.
It's amazing. And that goes for anything. I've learned how to fix faucets that way, but
right.
So Resolve is certainly also one. ATEM's the same thing. People will be like, oh, half the time if somebody asks me a question, how do I do this? And I'm like, how do I do what you just asked if I type it into Google? Oh, look at that. There's a video.
Yeah, there's a video. You get
amazing.
guys like Aaron Parecki, who's a big YouTuber and proponent of Blackmagic stuff, and he even built he built a rack, like this cool little mounting block that he built on a 3D printer that has attachments on it and all this stuff for the A10 Mini and the A10 Mini Extreme. He built another one, and it's this cool thing printed on a 3D printer, and he has all these tutorials on how to use macros, how to use, picture in picture. Like, he goes through everything in the switcher. Yeah, it's crazy.
I love it because, it helps a lot. There was originally the A10 Mini, before the pandemic, we thought, what that's good for is the kids that like to play games and stream at the same time, and they want to show themselves playing, right? So they have the output of their game, and then they have a camera on them, and that's what they're going to show, right? And they're gonna stream that. Well, some people are having trouble getting the output of PlayStation into the ATEM.
Okay.
And some guy made a video. It's not your ATEM, it's the PlayStation, and I'll show you how to do it.
Right.
And then 4 minutes and 32 seconds later, he gets to the menu. So anytime I sent the link, I'd be like, well, if you skip in 4 minutes and 32 seconds, you'll get to the menu that you have to change.
Oh my God. Isn't it funny, like what you just said? Because a lot of guys will go through all of this other stuff before they get to the point. But there are some guys that are very good about making videos that are right to the point. Like, there's one video that I made where people were like, oh, how do you get, after you do a live stream, how do you get the video downloaded off of Facebook? And a lot of people just didn't know how to do it. So I made a video of how to do exactly that, but the video is very short. I get right to the point, and it's probably like one of the most watched videos that I've made, right? So it's like so funny. But people appreciate it, and it's true. You can find a video on virtually anything.
Yeah.
100%.
And the community, the Blackmagic community is very inclusive. They love to share. We have a forum on our website. You go in there and ask questions. You'll probably get more answers from the rest of the people that are in the forum than you would even from the Blackmagic person, right? I mean, suddenly it's like, well, I don't even have to answer this anymore because this guy, because sometimes people ask us about third-party stuff, and that's not something we comment or talk about, but everybody else does. They're like, well, I use that with this, and I use that with, I mean, nobody has, we don't make every product, obviously. So people will say, oh, what lens should I get for this camera? What media should I get? All those things. And people love answering the questions. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, I was going to mention that, Grant Petty, the founder and owner of Blackmagic Design, recently Forbes magazine did a story on Blackmagic Design and Grant. And I was actually, because of you guys, I guess, I was like asked,
you were,
I'm in the article a little bit, just a tiny little question about musicians using the stuff. And so, I was kind of giving the lens of the musician and why musicians want these switchers. But man, thinking about Grant, and Grant's made some great videos, breaking down some of the gear. I mean, that's kind of how I started finding out about all this stuff, was I was watching his videos. I didn't realize he's the man. I thought he was like just an employee that's like a great salesman at Blackmagic, and I was like, oh, I mean, you mean he's the founder and he's the guy. But super smart guy, and is really always thinking. And I believe that he has his hands in everything, right? I mean, as far as how the software runs, he's in the nuts and bolts of it. Not just like some guy that's, sort of not really involved. He's really involved.
Oh, for sure. I just spent a week with him out in Vegas, and he, the cut page, which is one of the pages of Resolve, might as well just say the Grant page, because I mean, he created that, and he wanted it for specific things, and he didn't want to overload the edit page, so he made his own page basically, and the ATEMs. He and I talk about all these, we nerd out all the time about all the, we should put it in there. We should do this. We should do that. And so he is totally involved in all of the products and uses them all. And he's so hands-on with all that stuff. And it's funny, as you mentioned the videos, because every time he starts the video, he says, hey, I'm Grant from Blackmagic. I'm some guy, employee number 7 or whatever. Meanwhile, he's number 1 de facto guy, but he just comes off like, I'm just Grant from Blackmagic, and I just do the videos, and here we go. There was one a few years ago that we did with, it was SMPTE fiber for the cameras that we were doing. And he wanted to show that that we build it safely, and that if the power cable, the connection, the simplifier, it carries power, but if it broke and hit water, it would, shut itself off without electrocuting. He's doing the video and he's like, so I'm going to try this. Hopefully I don't electrocute myself. And he's putting the cable in the water.
Oh my God.
And everyone's like, ah. He's like, whew, glad that worked. It was like, oh, great.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a lot of trust.
Yeah,
Hey guys,
yeah.
this is going to work, right? As I go to electrocute myself. But yeah, he is intense when it comes to knowing how to do all that stuff. And that's why he likes going to the show. Like he hadn't been able to go out and talk to customers on the floor in front of the products in, almost 3 years there. So he was real happy to get out there and do that. And but yeah, he definitely is a hardcore user and knows all that stuff. And
Yeah.
he, as he said, he was just a customer that got angry with the way things were going and decided to build products.
Yeah. Well, he's doing an amazing job. So shout out to Grant Petty from Blackmagic Design. And man, it's like, and by the way, a shout out to Terry Frechette, who was my original contact at Blackmagic. And Terry's a big fan of drumming and drummers. And he and I nerded out on drummers a whole bunch. And so so I sent him out because he's a Neil Peart fan. I sent him a bunch of Neil Peart stuff and video, DVD, a cymbal. So I sent him like a whole bunch of stuff. So a shout out to Terry, and I hope all is well. And actually, we just nerded out on Stuart Copeland, so he's getting a Stuart Copeland book.
That's funny.
But yeah, so if anybody has any Blackmagic specific questions, definitely throw them up in the chat. We'll definitely try to get to any questions on Blackmagic stuff. And I think, I'm going to kind of go down a little other lane, and we'll come back to it in a couple of minutes. But I wanted to ask you about, so, before COVID, you had been performing, you were doing comedy. And so, and I know for comedians in general, COVID was like, a lot of comedians just came up with like podcasts suddenly and like all these different avenues, right? It's like it seemed like every big comic on the planet all of a sudden had a podcast. But so first of all, what brought you to like doing stand-up comedy, or when did that bug get into your brain?
The day after I graduated college, or high school rather, day after I graduated high school was the first time I ever hit stage.
Okay.
So that was, when was that? Wow. Next year will be 40 years. Holy mackerel.
Wow.
So
all right. So
83, May of 83.
May of 83. So were you already thinking about, all right, I want to start performing like during high school, or was it just like,
oh yeah,
you were funny,
no.
you were keeping people cracking up, so they were like, man, you should be a comedian, like how did that go?
I think I started when I was about 5,
Okay.
thinking I'm going to be a performer of some sort, right? So, but in high school, so I tried it, and like everybody that tries it, you think you're going to be good at it, and then you stink. But but you're not prepared for any of it, right? Not prepared for the sound system the way it sounds, not prepared for the lights or any of those kind of things. And I went back the second week, and it was a little bit better. And then the third time I performed was in college, freshman year, day 3 of freshman year, which was such a stupid thing to do because I remember walking down to do it because it was like an open mic or like a coffee house kind of thing for the freshman orientation. So if people sang or they, danced or whatever, and then 2 of us decided to do comedy like idiots. And I remember thinking, well, if this doesn't go well, I probably just have to transfer.
I'll just go to a different school.
Right.
Oh my God.
But it worked fine because they were an easy crowd, and it was fun. But I did it on and off for a long time, in spite of my father trying to throw me out of the house because he's like, and I said, oh, I'm going to college, don't want to do all those things. But I was doing on and off. But I'd say the last 20 years, I've been pretty regular at it, doing like VFWs and moose and elks lodges and all those kind of things on weekends. And I did it actually. My first one back from the pandemic was about a month ago. You know what it was? I'll tell you when it was. It was the Saturday after Will Smith hit Chris Rock.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh, this is great. You know, great. This is a great time to come back. So I think I promoted it by saying I dare Will Smith to come see me. And
nice.
Yeah. So I live outside Atlantic City. Chris Rock was in Atlantic City that Saturday night, but I was at the Mount Holly Moose Lodge. And,
all right.
As I told the audience, I said, sure, Chris is down in Atlantic City, but you got Bobby Z right here.
Nice.
So, yeah, but it's been weird ever since and then like Dave Chappelle got tackled the other night, and it's like comedians, what, like, whoa.
Yeah.
Back off.
But you know what's so great is didn't Dave Chappelle actually say, I mean, because he came back and performed, right?
Oh yeah, he didn't care.
And I think
like
he
you're
actually
beating that
said
guy.
something to the effect, like he said, was that Will Smith? Like that night.
No, it was Chris Rock.
Oh, Chris Rock said that, right?
He goes, was that Will Smith?
Oh my God. Yeah. So I think there's going to be a lot of Will Smith material, like for years to come, really, from that whole outburst. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So, and then what I do now is I just look for the biggest guy in the room and usually go, Tiny, you got my back, right? And then he's like, okay.
Nice.
Like,
Yeah.
Somebody protect the stage for me, please. I don't need grief. But it's funny because comedy is one of these things where if it's in your blood, you got to do something about it, right? And like a lot of people always say, oh, I'm going to try it or whatever. I'm like, good luck. Yeah. Because there's two different types of funny, I say. There's stage funny and there's party funny.
Right.
And they're not the same thing.
No.
And not every comedian's the same way. Like I'm a party funny and stage funny person because I don't know the line. I just, whatever, I'm on. But there are plenty of people. Jerry Seinfeld is not party funny.
No.
And he, serious stage person only, doesn't want to talk to anybody, that kind of thing. There's so many comics like that.
Yeah.
My wife, when she first started coming around, she's like, none of these guys talk. I said, yeah, I know. I said, I'm the exception to this rule. There aren't many guys that do this. Most of them don't say a word. They go out, they do their thing, they sit down, they go, well, how do they do that? I said, they're not going to interact with anybody.
Right.
And I interact with the crowd all the time. I'll jump in. I did Vegas a bunch of times where I would just run out into the audience and start talking to people. And everyone's like, oh my God.
Wow.
And I'm like, I know, it's like going to the zoo and the animals are let loose. But most comics don't do that. They have a set thing and they just, the wall's there and they're just doing their thing. But it's like a rush. You can't stop, right? I mean, musicians are like that too. I know guys that they don't play professionally, but they have to play.
Yeah. I was going to say it's a very, comedians and musicians, it's really kind of a similar thing. Most musicians, even if they're not playing for a living, they, the hobby of it or, their other life is just as important to them. And they put a lot of time into their craft, as they can. They may have a really serious full-time gig, but at the same time, they're honing their craft all the time, updating,
Absolutely.
Equipment all the time, always working on it, always writing, And I would imagine that, same thing with performing or actors, or you have it in you, you need to get that creativity out and do it.
Yeah, I was feeling it during the pandemic because if I can't get it out, then something's wrong. I got to do that. And sometimes, because I do a lot of crowd work and I'll talk a lot, and Lord help anybody that tries to heckle me because I talk 500 miles an hour and you're just going to get hit with a brick. So, and if I haven't done it in a while, then the audience is just in trouble. I'm just going to start just going and burying, like nice shirt and whatever, just go on and do whatever I do. But when I was in college, I went to a Catholic school, went to a Catholic college, University of Scranton, which is Jesuit. And this one priest came to me and he says, "So I understand your dream is to be a comedian." And I said, "No, no, no, no." I said, "I am a comedian." I said, "My dream is to be the lead singer in a band, but I don't really have the look." Although now I'm starting to think maybe I can, make a comeback as a singer. But
you might be able to pull it off.
Got the hair. Yeah, I'm running, getting the hair long. I'm ready to get the, Bobby Z and the Shaggy Do Band or something. Because I if I could have picked anything, I would have been the lead singer in a band, right? Because I'm a mimic. So my wife always says, she says, "Well, you don't know how to sing." I said, "Well, I don't know how to sing." She goes, "Well, you just impersonate everyone that you sing." And I said, "But okay, but you have to kind of be able to sing to do that."
Right.
So, and I like to go across the wide range when I sing too. So I'll sing, let's see, like James Brown, Creed, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, just like go, the Doors. I'll do like all kinds of weird, and then what's Snow Patrol, I think, Chasing Cars, and one of those songs. I don't know, there's like all these like strange. I sang Hozier one night. I was like, I don't even know why I'm trying this, but I am. So if I can hear it, then I can sing it. You know what I mean? Like if I just mimic those things, and I would love to do that because if I could get a band together and I could sing, I would, because then I could be funny too, right?
That's like the whole tribute band thing, like anybody fronting a tribute band has to be able to sing like, a whole bunch of different voices and sound convincing as all those people. And then it's a huge bonus if you're a funny guy and you can keep the crowd engaged in between,
I get it. And I knew guys that went back and forth. Like there was my one friend, Kevin, is an amazing guitarist and musician in general, and that's what he did. And then he became a stand-up comic for a long time and had these great backing tracks and all that stuff, and then decided to get back out of comedy and go back to music.
Wow.
And he's back doing music. And but he was another one, like on stage this guy was amazing, off stage couldn't talk to him.
Right.
He just didn't want to speak. I broke through. Most people were scared of him. His tagline was "the meanest man in town." So,
oh wow,
didn't really. And he had a little jingle. "He's the meanest man in town. He's mean. He's mean." He did this like whole thing, and he would play that loop like 3 or 4 times. And he says, "Oh, you hate it now, but you'll be singing it tomorrow."
Yeah, thanks. I have no choice now. My God, that's funny.
Yeah, if I could combine both, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That's like what's his name? Ozzy. See, Ozzy Osbourne I used to do as a character.
Okay.
I used to do Ozzy. I'd go out with the wig, the glasses, I'd throw on the tattoos. And I talk like Ozzy, it's like I have to enunciate because they're too cheap for subtitles. So I'd have to and one time my parents were coming to see me, which they rarely came to see me. And my mom said, "Are you going to be nervous because we're there?" And I said, "No, I'm going to get Ozzy to do it." And she says, "Oh, do you think you can get him?" And I was like, "What?" She never understood the whole thing.
Oh my God. That was a good Ozzy though. That was like pretty spot on. Oh my God.
Ozzy was always fun because he got away with murder.
Right.
Plus, and it's like ventriloquists the puppet always gets away with murder. Well, Ozzy could get away with murder. And I did a show one night where I didn't come out of costume because people were trying to figure out who I was. And I was like, I'm not breaking character.
Yeah, man. I mean, that guy, like, you didn't understand what he was saying half the time. And then a couple words would pop through and you would go like, what? What did he just say? Did he just say that? Yeah. Oh my God. That's funny.
Yeah, he's funny.
Oh man. Well, I will say, like, it's really funny. Like, I'm a huge comedy fan, but I never ever thought that I would be able to do that. Although there's a part of me that would love to try it, but I know that it's got to be even more brutal than being a musician, because I mean, and I've seen a lot of stories of comics going out and doing it, and Pete Holmes had this great series. Crashing. I mean, that's just a great glimpse into like the New York comedy cellar, like all the New York comedy scene thing, and having to hand out the flyers on the corner, or you're not going to get up and get a set. That stuff's real.
Absolutely.
and tough, and just getting heckled, and there's 4 people in there, and they're just, no one's listening, or somebody's heckling you. I mean, it's like, it's pretty brutal, right?
Oh, it's terrible. And I moved to LA when I was 22, and I started doing the open mics at the Comedy Store and all that stuff. Then I responded to an ad from a well-known comedian seeking writers, blah, blah, blah. I wrote the letter. I got back like a form letter from, you probably know who he is, but not everybody does. Yakov Smirnoff, right? The Russian guy.
Right.
So when I got that back, I was like, he and I don't have the same comedy sort of lane. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, he used a lot of puns and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't even know how to do that. Right. So I didn't respond. I was like, I got nothing for him. He leaves a message on my answering machine. I thought it was a joke. I thought someone called me and left the voice, hello, Bob, this is Yakov Smirnoff. So anyway, I met him. I wrote for him for a little while. I made some money off him. One night, this gives you the mind of a comedian that at the time I didn't understand it. Today, I understand it 100%. He came to see me at the Comedy Store because he lived around the corner. He came down on the night I was performing. He brought his girlfriend, and he comes into the room. First, he winds up pushing us all back because he comes in, does 15 minutes, then goes into other rooms or whatever. I get up on stage. I see him coming in as I'm getting on. So I'm like, cool, he's going to watch. I do my little thing. I come off. I go by the table. We both meet. His girlfriend says, "You were great. You did better than he did." That was the last time I spoke to Yakov Smirnoff. He was a hugely known person. He had a Rolls Royce and a Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't spell Ferrari. And that was it. His ego was crushed by what she said. And I want to write to him now because they're divorced. They got married, and then I was going to say, she ruined both our lives.
Yeah, really.
Dude.
If she just said, "Oh, yeah, that was pretty good," you would have been fine.
Exactly. But to say, "Oh, yeah, you did better than he did," I was like, oh my God, you just crushed his and at the time I thought, he can't really be like that. No, they're all like that. And we all are actually in the same way. Like, I'll come home from a gig. If my wife comes to see the show and then we drive home and then she's like, "Oh, that one thing?" And I'm like, do not even finish the sentence. It's too soon.
Too soon. Yeah.
Don't talk about that today. I don't want to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
So I get it. And I also, when I was doing this, there were no background shows or any of these other, no one knew, right? Everybody was out on their own. They didn't know. Gary Shandling, Lord rest his soul.
Yes.
About 2 years before he died, they're on some show and they're showing Ray Romano post Everybody Loves Raymond. Just did a sold out show, like 25,000 people, gets in the car with his manager or whatever. And the manager goes, "Wow, that was great." And Ray's like, "Oh, I don't know. It didn't seem that great." Right. And he's like, "What?" So they said, "Can you believe that Ray would do that? You would think that he would be past that." And Gary Shandling says, "Oh, you get past that? That's news to me. I didn't know that happened."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh my God, I wish I had known. I wish 22-year-old Bob knew that." Because Bobby Z, if he had known that, he would have stayed deeper probably, although who knows? Because that was one thing. Comedy Store, they said, "Look, you're a young kid, you gotta, you need time, blah, 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 but we're afraid to send you out on the road." And I said, "Why?" "Well, look at you. You look like you're 7," because I did. And he says, "What are we going to do? Send you out on the road with Sam Kinison or Richard Lewis or any of these other guys? You'll be doing drugs." And I'm like, "I don't do drugs." They're like, "You don't now."
Yeah.
But when you have 23 hours off at night, guess what?
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's probably not a good thing."
Oh my God.
But,
as you said, Gary Shandling, God rest his soul. We lost a lot of comedians in the last bunch of years, a lot of guys. Most recently, Norm Macdonald recently, who I always had a certain affection for. He's so funny. And
Bob
then
Saget.
Bob Saget, like, And that, I mean, I don't even know if like we know the definitive answer to that whole thing, you know, and
Yeah,
I don't know that I want to know.
No,
But
Louis Anderson.
You know, by the way, I always mention like how ingenious I thought Baskets was.
Oh, yeah.
The you know, the writing is just so great, but the way the character, the mom, Zach Galifianakis' mom, Mrs. Baskets, there's the first episode, there's a scene where, and I think it just kind of naturally happened this way, but he picks up this water bottle, or it's like a soda or something, and starts drinking it, and then actually just guzzles the whole bottle, and then chokes on it right before his line, and it's just such a funny moment. Like she just go. It's the first time she meets with the glasses. What's her name? The girl that worked at Costco that drove him around in the insurance car. And it's the first time she's meeting her, and Louis Anderson downs the bottle and chokes on it for real, I think. And it was just such a funny scene, but there's such funny stuff in that show. So I was sorry to see, obviously, Louis Anderson, you know. But so many, we lost so many comics, man. And then, you know, in recent years, so many comics to suicide, you know, and then thinking about like, you know, musicians too, right? It's such a tough thing. And I think even worse on comics. I mean, the life, you know, so,
they're both hard. Anytime you're traveling a lot, that's hard, period.
Yeah.
Time away from home, all those kind of things. I mean, I did a long weekend in Detroit one time, and I was supposed to be matched with a guy I was looking forward to spending the weekend with because I admired his comedy. And at the last minute, they switched the comic out to the person that I would least like to spend the long weekend with.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was brutal. And I had like a terrible hotel. And I remember calling my wife going, so Detroit in the middle of January sounded like a great idea. It's not such a great idea. And this is just brutal. And I could see how, I mean, yeah, having to do it all the time would just be too much.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, like the comparison musician and comic thing. One other thing, I kind of love. I mean, there's other guys that have done this throughout history, but I love. Mitch Hedberg would come out, you know, for a while with a bass player, right, upright bass, and so just doom 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 doom, and he told jokes, and it was so great. And there's a record called Strategic Grill Locations, which is like my favorite Mitch Hedberg CD. And he's, you know, he was so brilliant. He was doing one-liners. Sometimes they weren't even jokes, but he would acknowledge it, which I thought was part of the funny thing. He would say a line and then he'd go, that wasn't really a full joke right there. You know, he'd just kind of make these statements, you know.
That was a work in progress.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And his delivery was so great. And, you know, a lot of kids knew him from like, being on that 70s show, but I didn't really know that. I just knew I liked his comedy because it had a certain rhythm, the way he spoke, and then having that first record with the bass player was like, oh my God, this is like early, I can't think of the guy's name, but there were comics kind of in the 60s and stuff that would do that kind of thing. They would have, you know, sort of some jazz behind them. I was thinking of one particular guy that was very controversial, but I can't think of his name right now.
John Rickles had a full orchestra when he performed.
Yeah.
He always had, because they used to play his entrance, dun, dun, dun,
right,
you know, all that stuff. And I got lucky enough to be on stage with him.
Did you?
First of all, Atlantic City. That was wild. He pulled me out of the audience. I climbed over people like I was a scared cat. I was like, wow, you know, like he says, you, and I went, me? He goes, yeah, you. And I'm like, okay, leaped on stage.
Oh my God.
That was amazing.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he's like, what do you do for a living? And I said, I'm a comedian. And he's like, what? And I was like, no, I'm just here to pay homage. I start bowing at him. He's all right, kid, you know.
Oh, that's great.
Banana, will you stay on stage with me?
Man, he was so great. Like he did all the roast and stuff.
Oh yeah.
He was just great at tearing people up, and I just like as a kid, my dad would put on when he was on like Carson, and he was just hilarious every single time he killed, and then speaking of Norm Macdonald, there's a scene in Dirty Work where Norm Macdonald is working at the movie theater with Artie Lang, and Don Rickles is the manager. And that scene, there's outtakes from that scene that are really funny.
I bet.
Yeah. And so like that's one of those things. If people listening don't know that, go check out the outtakes from Dirty Work. Look for Don Rickles with Norm Macdonald and Artie Lang. Very, very, very funny. But I'm looking in the chat. I don't see any Blackmagic questions. Come on, guys. You got any questions on the Blackmagic stuff? In the meantime,
We covered it so well.
We did. That's what it is. I'm going to tell you the first 4 comedians that got me into comedy as a kid. So the first thing I ever heard was Get Small, Steve Martin, right?
Steve Martin, yeah.
So not the big one in the white suit with the bunny ears, but the one before that. He was younger, right? He's got the balloon animal like on his head, and he's got the nose and glasses, and and on the back cover, he's like got 9 million cigarettes in his hand, and he's like smoking a whole pack all at once. But that record I loved as a kid. I had it on vinyl. I played it over and over and over. I listened to that all the time. So that record I thought was really, really funny. And then I had Class Clown and Occupation Fool from George Carlin.
Yeah.
So those 2 records. And then the next 2 that I got was Reality, What a Concept, Robin Williams. And Something Pony, Stephen Wright.
Oh God, Stephen Wright. I love him.
And that's where like my taste in comedy started to change a little bit, was with Stephen Wright.
Sure.
But like those were my first 4 guys: Steve Martin, Robin Williams, George Carlin, and Stephen Wright. And Stephen Wright just blew my mind. Like he had some jokes that were just so like, it took you a second. You were just like, your head was just exploding. You would go oh my God, what he just said is so amazing. So
the world's largest seashell collection. I keep it scattered across beaches around the world. Perhaps you've seen it.
I still use that. I use it all the time.
I do too. I live on the beach.
I say that constantly. So like those are my 4 big guys. Like, so as a kid, who would you say were your biggest influences as a kid?
Robin Williams and Jonathan Winters. For sure. When Mork and Mindy came out as a TV show, they started that. He did 1 guest appearance on Happy Days or Laverne and Shirley, one of those 2. I think it was Happy Days. And then, as Mork, and then they developed the character and they put it on TV. So in the middle of September that year, that came out. That October, that Halloween, I went out dressed as Mork for Mork. No one knew who he was, right?
Like,
I was like a little bit
Bob?
I was a little bit ahead of the class there.
Yeah.
I remember I went out, I had red pajamas, I had the silver triangle. I took hockey gloves and spray painted them silver. I had an old war helmet. I spray painted silver. I went out and did the whole thing. No one knew who the hell I was. Like a few people did, but not many.
It was too soon, Bob.
It was way too soon. But yeah, Robin Williams and Jonathan Winters. And then when the 2 of them were on the show together, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What are they doing? I have to be on that show. Oh, I did want to show this though.
Oh, the lights.
The lights.
Awesome.
Let's see if we can focus those a little better. I bet the lights. I wonder if the other camera. So, but those guys were the big ones. Gary Shandling, I liked a lot. Letterman, I watched. I stayed home and watched him on his NBC show in the daytime show.
Oh, wow.
Once, before he went. And I remember thinking, he is not good for daytime.
That's right. They better move him to a later slot.
Exactly. But I think Robin Williams was the most influential because of his scattered nature. And I remember I used to say that I had ADD on stage. Turned out I actually had ADD. I did get treated for it about 30 years too late, but
Yeah.
because there was a guy, what was his name? There's another comedian, Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
Bill Hicks was a guy, he died cancer long time ago, but he was like a real, he had a great line that said, material is what you do when you run out of things to say.
Nice.
And I used to say that I used to do the same thing. Like, I have some stuff that I would do, but I would prefer to just go off the cuff and go out and do whatever it's going to do, which is not really ideal for if you're trying to do an album. You can't do that.
Right.
But to entertain that crowd, to make it a unique for that crowd, then that's I think the best way to do it and the most fun to do.
Yeah.
But but also I wasn't allowed to do jokes about my family. My father kind of put the kibosh on all that. So I kind of avoided it. Yeah. He told me after he died, and I thought, well, how long will that take? And he lived to be 91 and died in 2019, right before the pandemic started. So I mean, I was like, it's bad enough I had to wait this long. And then we went into a pandemic. I'm like, holy mackerel, talk about
Yeah. Oh my
so
goodness.
so that the Over My Dead Body tour will be written, and that's what I plan to do in my retirement.
Nice. By the way, we do have a Blackmagic question, and I know the answer to this, but I'm going to let you answer it. But John Gill, and he's saying he has a question about the picture-in-picture Blackmagic feature, and he goes, my pick-in-pick gets smaller when I change its location on my Extreme. What am I doing wrong? Simple answer. Bob's going to answer that, I think.
Right. So the presets are presets. And so what you have to do is create a macro and establish the size that you want and save that, and then use that. The presets on the panel actually try to just put it in the same spot. But what I find the easiest thing to do is to create a macro for each position that you want to use it in. And then there's also in the keyer, in the DVE, you can make it go from one to the other, A to B. Like if you set the A position and set a B position, or even set full, you can go from one to the other and all those kind of things. So yeah, that's the presets on the actual switcher won't do you any good.
Although,
but you can, you can adapt to it, but
yeah. And you can also, another simple thing that I've done is you set the picture-in-picture how you want it, and then you do save startup state. So when you do a save startup state, it will start up back to that same sizing that you did, because sometimes you'll set the whole size, you get it all right, you're like, great, you shut down, you come back the next day, it's back to being small, right, John? Yeah. And then Mr. Gill, and if you do save startup state, then when you start up the machine, it'll go back to that startup state. But you have to, every time you make a change, you would have to click save startup state. So what Bob is saying is, if you create a macro, you can actually run that, that sequence for whatever you set up. And it's something, you can always reach out to me about, or Bob, I'm sure about, and we can help you with that, John. Very cool. Yeah, that's good question.
I'm sure somebody did a whole video tutorial on all that too, because that often comes up as a question. Clearing startup state before saving it is also good. That way it clears it out. Then you save the startup state, and then you're good to go.
That's good to know. I didn't know that one.
That's
clear
a good thing
startup
to do.
State. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you want to clear it because in the software it'll say clear. So you clear that startup state, and the other thing is I save and then recall the settings.
Yeah.
Like even like here, I don't have them for nighttime, so I'm not usually here that late, but I will, I have my AM and PM camera settings.
Right. Oh, that's so smart.
Sun moves around, so it's real easy to just kind of reload and shut those and do that. So that's another thing, and real easy to reload those. And it makes it just, especially if you're trying to do all this walking, talking, punching cameras all at the same time by yourself, you need to give yourself the tricks of the trade, and this is also
very helpful.
Very helpful.
One thing that a lot of drummers ask. Oh, by the way, John Gill said, "Thanks, Bob. I'll set up a pick-and-pick macro and use save startup state." So, one other thing that a lot of drummers say, and I really the answer is not cut and dry for this, but as drummers, if you were trying to create content on the fly, like live, and have camera switching going on, there's a way that you could set up a macro where you have the cameras sort of look like they're switching randomly. But you could do that, and I'm not sure if there's a timing sequence that you can set up.
So
I think there might
there's
be
a couple things. The thing that I do with that when I create a macro is I'll create a macro that will switch between cameras in a certain amount of seconds each, right?
Right.
And then when you recall the macro, excuse me, you can play it back with loop.
Yeah.
And it'll just loop.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll never look quite as smooth as if you had an operator sitting there doing those changes. But if you're live and that was your only way to do it, that's a great solution for doing that stuff. Hopefully in November when I'm displaying how to do all this stuff at PASIC, maybe I'll go through a macro like that and show people how to have a switching sequence happen. But especially if you have 4 cameras, my advice would be don't have it go like camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4, camera 1, camera 2. Make it a little random. Side cam, overhead cam, side cam, overhead cam. And then go foot cam. So anyway, try to make it a little bit more random. But if anybody has any other Blackmagic questions, field them. I'm going to give you some just a couple more comedians that I just want to mention.
Cool.
Do you have a hard stop at any time, by the way?
No, I'm sure my wife will call me soon to say when you come
Yeah,
home.
because it's like, we're coming up on a little bit of time, so we'll try to keep it to 90 minutes. That gives us another 18 minutes. Cool. So I said my first 4 were Steve Martin, Robin Williams, George Carlin, Stephen Wright. You said Robin Williams and Bonnie Franklin. No, what did you say before? Oh, yeah. Bonnie.
Jonathan Winters.
And I will also say that Robin Williams, I loved that record, the energy of that record, Reality, What a Concept, because he was just on fire. He was like firing at you so fast. You're laughing about one thing. He's already told 3 more jokes. But later on, when he was in that movie, The Birdcage, him and Nathan Lane in The Birdcage was so funny. And what's his name?
Harvey Firestein and
but the maid.
I know.
He's a great character actor.
I know who he is, and
why am I forgetting right now? But so he played their housekeeper. Those three guys were just so funny in that movie. I could watch that movie several, over and over and over, and I still laugh. There's still things that'll make me laugh in that. But I thought he was great in that. So, and Robin Williams done some great, even dramatic stuff as an actor. But as a comic, he just always crushed and was so fast.
Well, he went to Juilliard for theater. So that's the one thing a lot of people don't remember. And that's, and that's why he would do like Shakespeare and make fun of Shakespeare, and half the comics are like, who the hell is Shakespeare? But that's where it all came from. And that's why when people are like, oh, he's such a great actor. Well, yeah, he went to Juilliard for acting.
Yeah.
He became a comic because he just did. And, like Good Will Hunting and all those kind of movies he did, or, some of them, and Dead Poet Society and, just some great rules.
There's another one he did where he was a doctor, like with, he was a pediatrician maybe?
Oh, yeah.
It was a weird little, it wasn't like a big hit, but I thought he was great in that movie.
I think he was an amazing talent. And again, he was somebody who was on a lot. Yeah. And a big cyclist.
Oh, yeah.
So funny.
Right.
Big bicycle guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And gone way too soon. Another one. Yeah. Another one, right? By the way, my mom's in here. Hi, Mom. My mom and my sis hanging with us tonight. That's pretty funny.
It's a family affair.
Yeah, we just had a nice Mother's Day this past weekend. And then, so I mentioned Stephen Wright before is kind of where it started to change for me. And in recent years, I mean, meaning like the last 10 years, I've been a huge Mitch Hedberg fan. I know I mentioned him before, but definitely if anybody's not real familiar with it, I was posting one-liners for a long time, pictures of Mitch and one-liners. I thought he was just amazing. Another guy gone way too soon. And kind of before that, I was into like Lewis Black and Richard Lewis and that kind of stuff. But more recent guys, and I think he was just co-hosting a different show the other night. But Mike Birbiglia, I think, is kind of a funny dude. He's weird.
Yeah,
I know.
No, I like Birbiglia. He's been around. I remember when he was starting. Frankly. Yeah, very good. And the other night he did a thing. He said something about his mother faxed him something and then said, "Fax it back. It's my last copy."
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's hilarious. He's really funny, and I think like when he first hit, there's a video of like one of his really early performances. That material is really funny. It seemed a little more off the cuff, sort of. I think he's a guy that definitely writes, but I thought it was, and it's always kind of light, he's very sort of light-hearted comedy, right? And I think
Brian Regan, those guys are like
Brian Regan, Gaffigan,
Jim Gaffigan, right? Those guys, you could take anybody to go see them. They're all good, and
right. They were family safe. Yeah. Like I took my kids saw Gaffigan and Brian Regan live, and it was fine, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But then, like being a New York guy, going to see Mario Cantone, that was always funny.
Love Mario. Yeah.
That guy's got a great energy.
Oh, yeah. I saw him. I saw Dave Chappelle MC back when he was like 16, 17, whatever it was, when he first came to New York. And Mario Cantone was on that show, and his energy, it was like, holy cow.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything from him in a while, but there was a point where he was performing a lot, and I saw him at Caroline's, and he did this one skit where he was doing three characters, and he kept switching, but he was doing Cher, Tina Turner, and I want to say, for some reason, it was like one of the Charlie's Angel girls tried to go into like singing, and he was taking the curtain and he was wrapping the curtain around his head, and he was doing Cher, like he had the long hair with the curtain, and then he would drop the curtain and he was running all around the stage. His energy was just so funny, so high energy. And he too, like firing stuff at you so fast, a lot of the time. Yeah, look. So that's a really funny guy. He wasn't on my list, but I just thought of it. So I'm going to name comics, and you just give me your first reactions. So, and we've already mentioned a lot of them, but Dave Chappelle is on my list. So what comes to mind when I say Dave Chappelle?
I think that Chappelle is misunderstood by the people that don't like him. My thing is, you probably didn't watch the whole special.
Yeah.
Because if you watch the whole special, if you sit through the entire specials, nobody wraps up a special like he does. He interweaves the whole thing. He comes up with his point and he makes it. And whether you agree with it or not doesn't matter. But the point is that he tells a story throughout the whole thing, and it comes to a conclusion of why he even went from A to B. And I think a lot of people overreact to things that he does and says and whatever. I think it's silly. And at the end of the day, he's a comedian, for crying out loud. He's not trying to, he's
a comedian. That's the thing you got to remind people. Like, it's like, he's a comedian. Okay. It's like, stop taking everything so serious. When he was on, what's Letterman's show called now? My No Introduction, or my next guest.
The next guest.
Chappelle was on that. That's a great episode. Anybody that's on the fence about how they feel about Chappelle, go watch that Letterman interview. Man, that's a great interview. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, totally.
What about how about some newer guys? Anthony Jeselnik.
So Jesselnick, I like him, and I like to listen because I listen in the car a lot.
Right.
If I'm driving back and forth to see my mother, which is an hour away, I'll listen to stuff. The only problem I have with him is he smiles too much during his deliveries.
You know what's funny about that though? You're right. You're right.
Stephen Wright never smiled during his delivery.
No, Stephen Wright never broke. Like, well, if he did, it was really suppressed. He was trying to hold it down. You know, like
Right.
like it was starting to come through, and then yeah. But you're right, Anthony Jeselnik. But it almost makes it like he's going, like, you know, I'm in on this with you or something. I don't know. It's a weird
Yeah,
thing. It's like I think he does it on purpose. Or do you think
he
he's
does
just?
maybe now? I just think that he would be. I think he'd be stronger if he didn't do it because he doesn't need to, and because a lot of his jokes are like, they hit it, like, oh,
Yeah.
did he do what I said?
Like the one
and he
with the baby in the car and he threw the rock through the window. Like that one, you know, that's like so twisted. And and he's smirking like after that one. And he's like, that joke is a test. He goes, I know if you laugh at that joke, show goes great. If you don't laugh at that joke, show goes terrible. He goes,
Right.
I don't care either way. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, I do like him, but I just that's my thing. I don't know. I don't like when he smiles.
How about
but,
Norm Macdonald?
oh well, yeah. So Norm Macdonald, Norm Macdonald had a great bit after Tiger Woods got caught cheating or whatever. He said, yeah, you know, in reality, when you look at it, he really didn't cheat all that much because if you think about it, Tiger Woods, he could sleep with like a billion women. He slept with like 25. Well, that's like 0.0000000. Look, Bob over here, he's sitting in the front row there. You know, he might sleep with one woman. Well, he only had like 20 chances. So like, woof, that's a high percentage, Bob. You're kind of
That's pretty
tramp.
funny.
You know, so
That's pretty funny.
but that would be normally like, oh, is there a crazy twist I can take on this one? Well, yeah, why don't we take it? Just take it down a crazy path. But yeah, he was sick and didn't tell anybody. And
Right.
and I don't know, I guess I kind of understand that. You know, I could see why he wouldn't, you know, he doesn't want to get into that whole, you know,
Right.
he didn't like talking anyway, you know, like he like doing whatever he was doing. But, you know, he was there talking about no holds bar because he, you know, he got fired from Saturday Night Live because they kept telling him don't do any more stuff about OJ, I think it was. And they're like, well, he's like, no, I don't understand why I'm not.
Wow. Oh my God. I mean, I thought he was
Great.
amazing, and of course the delivery is everything. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, his voice he just says it doesn't matter what he says. You start laughing just by his voice.
Yeah.
Those are great comics where it's just, you know, sort of the voice gets you before even the joke hits you. You know, it's
Well, so that was one of the things back in the day when the guy said to me, he says, look, if you come out and you do 10 minutes of funny material and they don't remember your name, then that's not good.
right.
He said, you want them to say, oh, I saw this guy last night. Here's his name. I don't even remember what he said. He was funny. And that's really, and that's the thing.
That's a great point.
And to be honest with you, I started using Bobby Z-E-E, as my stage name because my last name gets butchered. And so I use Bobby Z. And what's funny to me is sometimes I'll be performing someplace and then afterwards people say, Bobby Z, what was the name of the other guy? And I'm like,
That's funny.
I'm like, that's good. They remember, but you know, people remember Bobby Z. And the best is when you get recognized. It's not the best, but occasionally you get recognized and I never believe them. Like they'll say, we saw you. And I'm like, where?
Right.
I want to know where it was. And then I'm like, yep, plausible. I was definitely there. Okay.
Wow. Oh, that's funny.
I don't know why you would remember me. But if I run into a woman and she has an autographed picture of me, then I know why. It was because I made fun of her and I would give it to them after the show and say, thanks for being a good sport and whatever.
That's smart.
Yeah. So I do that because there was a woman once who she said, we've met. And I said, okay. And she said, oh, we met. I have one of your headshots. And I went, oh. I said, did I make fun of you? And she said, yeah. And I said, oh, sorry. I said, what's your name? And she said, her name was Sunday. And I said, oh, well, I'm sure I called you tomorrow all night. And she said, yes, you did.
Oh my God, that's great.
I said, I'm sorry, but don't feed me that line. If your name is Sunday, don't tell the comedian your name is Sunday.
All right, I got a couple more. How about
Go.
It's kind of funny, like with musicians, you know how we have genres, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's subgenres, but let's just say genres. So, like if we're just talking like, okay, jazz, rock, funk, metal, right? You could kind of take comedians in that way, right? I mean, it's like, think of the really straight lane that we talked about earlier, like Mike Birbiglia, Brian Regan, Jim Gaffigan, the guys that kind of fall in that lane and never say anything blue. And then there's the guys that are like Louis C.K.'s lane, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, my mom's definitely going to be offended by everything he says, no matter what.
Oh, sure.
So
Yeah, totally.
and you have to be, the type of person that nothing phases you to listen to him because it's going to be shocking. Anthony Jeselnik kind of in that lane, right?
Mm-hmm,
And then there's like other lanes, they're kind of a little bit in between, right? So like, do you recognize that in sort of genres, or is it just sort of blue and not blue or something like that?
No, so it's varying degrees, right? So
Yeah.
I remember that people would always say, "Oh, I like Robin Williams. He's not dirty," and I'm like, "You're not paying attention."
Yeah.
Because he may not be dirty, but he used the F-bomb every third word.
Yeah.
But that didn't matter.
But it's how he
right?
did it.
Well, it's 100% right.
Yeah.
So you don't catch it because of the way that he does it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas some other people, you can't not hear it, and that can be annoying. And when sometimes I'll book a show, right? So people say, "Oh, can you hire?" And I'm always trying to ask them, like, on a scale of 1 to Howard Stern, where do you, of course, older Stern when he was a lot more edgy, but because you have to find that sweet spot, right?
Right.
And because but at the end of the day, funny is funny, and that's really what happens, right? So I've seen people watch someone live, and I would never have thought they would appreciate it, but they were. Now, gonna say late 86 or 7, so I'm like just about out of college. My sister gets us tickets. We're all down in Atlantic City to see Joan Rivers, because that's my mom's favorite comedian. But my mom liked TV Joan Rivers.
Yeah, not the same thing.
She didn't know about nightclub Joan Rivers. Gary Shandling opened for her right before he broke loose.
Yeah.
Okay. There's 8 of us. We go to get in those like big banquet, Vegas style seating things at Bally's or something, or Caesars or wherever it was. We're down, and there's 8 of us. My mother, my father, my grandfather, my dad's dad, who came up the boat from Italy, and I wind up in one booth, and then 3 of my sisters and my brother-in-law are in the other booth, and I'm like, "Oh, come on! Why am I in this booth with them?"
Wow.
Because, Gary Shandling said stuff that wasn't crazy, but it was like, "Ooh, boy." And then Joan Rivers comes out, and oh my, and my mother's like, "Well, she doesn't do that on late night, Carson or whatever." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." I'm like,
Yeah, that's like kids that would think, "Oh, we're gonna go see Bob Saget because we saw him on Full House." What was that? The show Full House?
Yeah, Full House and America's Got Talent,
which is like
America's Funniest Videos.
Oh yeah, it's like
kind of thing,
totally family friendly. Like, he's gonna be great. Oh my God! Like, they don't know nightclub Bob Saget.
No.
Oh my God.
So that was painful to see that, because and then my grandfather, he says, "I was very embarrassed for your mother.
Oh my God.
That words were disgusting." And I'm like, "Oh, great. This is a lot of fun."
They're just words. It's okay.
I know. I'm like, "Oh," and my dad's like, "What are you laughing at?" I'm like, "I'm not laughing at anything. I'm stressed under the whole thing." It's the worst.
Oh my God. Get me out of here.
Yeah, that was remarkable.
All right, one other guy, Aziz Ansari.
Oh, Aziz Ansari, yeah. So Aziz, I like a lot. Now, Aziz is another one of those guys. He's a storyteller kind of a person, which I like. If I can stay focused long enough, I tell a story. If not, I just go off. But he's very good. And did you ever see the comedians in cars getting coffee?
Every episode.
All right, so Seinfeld goes on Aziz's bus.
Yeah.
And drives his bus. He's like, and he says, "I'm sorry, Aziz," and he goes, "Oh, Aziz, I'm sorry." Oh, I like that.
That I have to say, man, that show, comedians in cars getting coffee, I thought was great because it's just comedians talking shop, and
It's amazing.
I love every episode. I mean, there's others that are less funny than others. I would say the Alec Baldwin one was really funny. I thought, that one had me in stitches. The Sarah Silverman one was great.
Very good. Did you ever see the Letterman one?
Yes.
Letterman trying to get the people thrown out of the coffee shop.
Yeah.
It's like, so these people are going to
God.
stay here? Go, well, we don't own it. He goes, well, we could.
Yeah. I mean, that's so great, man. I really, I would love to see more episodes because it's kind of like not in production right now, right?
I bet they go back to it. I mean, there's
I
no
hope
reason
so.
not to eventually. And frankly, they could I mean, some of the people I would love to see again.
Some of them just felt good to watch, like the Julia Louis-Dreyfus one. I thought was great. Just watching them reminisce was awesome.
Right. And did you see Sarah Jessica Parker?
Yes.
So they're going to, the check comes and he's like, so what do we leave in that? She's like, I don't know, like 20%. He's like, 20%? What is wrong with you? We're on television.
That was great.
And she's like, oh my God, am I cheap? It's like, yes, you are. If they know who you are, you can't tip 20%, you moron.
That was great. Plus, if you're a car nerd, it's fun to see the cars, right?
Well, there's that too. I mean, appreciate that completely. And a friend of mine's a colorist on that. And
cool.
He gets a kick out of doing that. They do it. I think they do it at Broadway.
Yeah.
Video. I used to work at Broadway Video too.
Oh, okay.
In New York.
Well, man, I have to say, like, going down the comedy rabbit hole was super fun with you. I have a lot more comedians that we could probably talk about, but I'm gonna, in the interest of family life and time, we'll wrap it at this point. But I do want to go back to just one thing: Blackmagic Design, A10 Mini Pro Extreme ISO, which is what I'm using. Great machine. I'm still doing tech coaching, so if anybody needs help with any of these things, hit me up. But if you're just getting into the switcher game, A10 Mini Pro, A10 Mini Pro ISO, we're giving away an A10 Mini Pro. So follow the link. It's on my Facebook page. Just go to my profile, Jim Toscano. If you go down, I pinned this video that we're on right now to the top of the page. Underneath that, you'll see a picture of an A10 Mini Pro. There's a link there. If you click on it, you can enter. There's still time to enter. We're giving it away tomorrow. So definitely, ooh, the Ferris wheel looks awesome. I have quite the affection for Ferris wheels. I grew up in Brooklyn, and of course, the Wonder Wheel in Coney Island is pretty impressive as well. But guys, you could win an A10 Mini Pro, so don't forget about that. If anybody has any questions, Blackmagic or otherwise, hit me up. If it's something that I can't answer, I will definitely ask Bob, and we'll get back to you. I appreciate you being so generous with your time and hanging tonight and talking about the new products coming out from Blackmagic, which, by the way, the Hyperdeck Shuttle, the little cute gizmo, right there. Need to get one of those in my studio. That is awesome. And of course, the new switchers, which are SDI-based switchers, MME, I believe, is the series.
It's the A10 1ME Constellation HD, 2ME Constellation HD, and 4ME Constellation.
And
Mix
4ME.
Effects is what ME stands for. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So awesome stuff. And also some storage devices that are new. So go to the website, check it out. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Blackmagic Design, for always being so supportive. And we're going to wrap it up
pleasure.
here. Thank you to everybody that came into the chat, including my mom and my sister and all the usual suspects. So we're going to wrap it here. We'll talk to you guys real soon, and everybody have a good night. And I'm going to roll the titles. Bye.
it.